Welcome to That's a Wrap, the channel where I review TV shows and movies. I am your host, Ricky. Today's movie, we gotta take a little trip down memory lane and back to 2010 to one of the worst received movies of that year. But I think if you would re-release it in today's environment, 2021, I think it would be a hit, especially if you would put it in a streaming service, as it's doing so well right now in streaming. Right now, I think it would be a hit. Maybe it was just a movie made ahead of its time. And you might be asking, well, what movie is he talking about? And I'm talking about the underrated Scott Pilgrim versus the World. I enjoyed this movie. I thought it was fun. It was quick pace. The actor that plays Scott Pilgrim, he basically plays the same actor or the same kind of role in every movie, or has that same monotone action to him, or just the way he kind of goes about playing his roles. It's kind of consistent. So going into, I don't know why people give it a bad rap because of that fact. That's his thing. So I already go into a movie like this when he's in it or he's starring in it, knowing that's what I'm gonna get. And a lot of actors only have that way of acting. That was their original. They were casted on their personality, not on their method acting, not on something other than who they are. And for the most part, it worked, and he makes it work. So I thought that, going into it now, being honest, I didn't watch this movie when it came out in 2010. I didn't even go to the theater to watch it. And I think the first time I did watch this movie was probably 6 years ago. So probably three years after it came out, around there, 3 or 4 years after it came out. I watched it and I enjoyed it then just as much as rewatching it recently. At first, I thought it was a spoof movie of like the comic book movies. I mean, 2010, at that point, you have Iron Man 2 and the MCU is still not fully, flying and doing its thing. And for the most part, you had failed comic book adaptations in the theater, like, the Fantastic Four come to mind. It felt like a spoof movie until halfway through, where you realize the artistic value that's coming through. Almost to what I would equate it to what we saw in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I know that's more of a animation, but if you put 2 and 2 together, I think they're very similar in the way they storytelled by the visuals, but by their artistic form, which I think is very similar. But for the first half of the movie, I'm not gonna lie, I thought it was a spoof movie on just the comic book spoof, until again you realize and hopefully as many, I hope, do understand the artistic value to what we see and appreciate that. And it shows in the ratings, in the Rotten score, or is it the Rotten Tomato score, on top of all of the other one, the IMB, something like that. I can't remember. There's so many ratings, but as far as the general public, we enjoy it. We like it. And I could see the first thing that came to mind was, oh, this is a spoof movie of a comic book, until right around the halfway point, it kind of starts turning around. Who would have known that when you saw this movie, you would be watching future Captain America, right? Captain Marvel, and a version of Superman. Not the current version, a version of Superman. So right there, you have, a great American movie with 3 of the... Well, maybe not Captain Marvel. I think her colors are like red, blue, and something. I don't think White is one of them. But anyways, right? So who would have thought you would have had 2 MCU characters on there and a DC character in a movie? And I think, again, if you would put that, just put it out today and have those 3 actors on top of the cast was amazing. They had 2 of my crushes, which is, Audrey Plaza and Anna Kendrick, or as she is now known Anna Kendrick Lamar, and the rest of the supporting cast. I mean, it just keeps going and going, with a cast that now we know. Even that guy from Barry was in that movie. Who would have thought, right? But if you would have put that kind of star power that we have, that we know they are now in 2021, and re-released that, I'm talking about box office hit, trending, and it's the enjoyment that we're getting now. Again, why it's getting a resurgence now, because it's in a very popular streaming service. People are getting reconnected with it, and people are just admiring it for the artistic and witty humor, just the presentation, the story as what it had. It was pretty simple. You understood, and a spoiler alert if you haven't watched this movie, even though it's 11 years old or going to be 11 years old. So spoiler alert if you haven't watched it and you've watched this video up to this point. So the plot, the storyline, the flow of it is pretty easy. You understand that he likes this girl. While at first, you see that he's kind of like a user. He does not respecting the girl that's completely obsessed with him, and then there's this one girl that he becomes obsessed with, and somehow, in a weird way, they end up kind of dating. And one thing that ends up happening is that he has to then fight her exes. And of course, when you first see it, you're like, that's dumb. And that's why I was like, why is this a spoof of a movie and stuff like that? But anyways, so the plot is that he has to fight her 7 evil exes to be able to win her, basically. And I thought it was well, pretty simple. The plot, how you follow, and in every stage, or he would fight I can't remember how it went and how in the order that it ultimately went. There was like a boss level, kind of like a video game, and that's literally what it was based around. He had to fight her 7 evil exes in a video style setting, because every time that he did combos, or he would gain points, and at one point you got an extra life and stuff like that. So again, the artistic value was amazing. Not only looking back at it, I think when I saw it, I thought the same thing, that it was just a visual, I don't want to say masterpiece, because I'll say those words and just toss them around if I let myself. I think it was just visually pleasing, and once you got what they were trying to do, it became enjoyable to watch and rewatch and stuff like that. So I thought that, as far as, like I said, the following the plot line was pretty neat. Pretty simple. Hey, yeah, he's gonna fight, this ex of hers, and then there'll be a little bit of a story, and then they'll lead up to the next boss fight, and then beat that, and then a little bit of a story that, just kind of that. And it became repetitive all the way up towards the end. And yes, there was points that were humorous, or points that were interesting, but I thought for the most part, the plot and how it flowed was pretty simple. The visuals, what it was amazing to me. Again, I thought, looking at what I've seen since then, it reminded me a lot of Spider-Man Into the Spideyverse. Of course, not with the animation, just with the wittiness, the way it was shot, the way they did kind of make you feel like you were watching a live action comic book coming to life, with a little bit of a quirky, storyline, and unbelievable factor raised all the way up to the max. So, but the visuals was just amazing, and I was entertained for the most part. From the beginning to the end, I would say for the most part I was entertained, except for that part a little bit when Scott was fighting Gideon, I think his name was, the main guy, towards the end of the movie. It was probably my least favorite, and by least is just by a little bit. I mean, it just kind of, I noticed that I was, at that point, I glanced over to see what time it was on my phone, only because there was a little lag in the story there. But other than that, I thought it was complete. Like I said, I think it was a good movie, enjoyable. The best part for me was the fight scenes. The choreography of those fight scenes were amazing, and I think that was also what popped out at that, like the fight scenes. And at that moment, I don't think there was such a thing as Marvel editing yet, or the joke that is passed around as far as Marvel editing. The way they cut it, and you couldn't tell whether it was the actor that played, the actor, or the stunt double. It flowed very good, very effortlessly, and it completely made me believe believe that the kid from, he's not a kid now, but the guy from Juno spent years learning how to do, master karate, and he sold it. At least the editing did, and the director and producer did. But that was the one of the more enjoyable parts and refreshing when I saw that. I'm like, why I missed that, and I'm hoping that more movies will bring some of that fighting style back, or even not that style, but just that form of movie and presentation. I thought it was enjoyable in the right settings. Some of the fight scenes from the back in the days were just too long and so fake in some instances, but yeah, I was completely enjoyed that movie, and I would completely recommend it to people. And I give it a 4 out of 5 popcorns. Again, I thought it was, well, it flowed quickly. It had me entertained from the beginning to the end. I love the cast, and I mean, again, you can't go wrong with such a great cast and a funny script and a witty script. Sadly, it was horribly received at that in 2010. I think if you release it again in 2021, it would be a box office smash, because that's what our culture is. So I'll leave it up to you as far as if you think it was a movie ahead of its time, or if you are one of those that hate it and despise it, which honestly, you'll be in the minority. All I've seen across the interwebs is around a 75% liking on this movie. So if you don't like this movie, there's something wrong with you. But again, 4 out of 5 popcorn for me. Go out and check it out. Scott Pilgrim versus the World, a fun little 2-hour movie. I think it is. I can't remember the runtime on it, but it's an entertaining movie to watch. So with that said, thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, and that's a wrap.